Welcome to our continuing series on questions and answers from the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Today's subject is Detachment, Part 1, from Sri Aurobindo. I notice that these petty desires, which plenty of people who are not yogis at all, nor aspirants for yoga, know how to put in their proper place, seem to take an inordinate importance in the consciousness of the sadhaks here. Not all, certainly, but many. In this, as in many other matters, they do not seem to realize that if you want to do yoga, you must take more and more in all matters, small or great, the yogic attitude. In our path, that attitude is not one of forceful suppression, but of detachment and equality with regard to the objects of desire. Forceful suppression stands on the same level as free indulgence. In both cases, the desire remains. In the one, it is fed by indulgence, and the other, it lies latent and exasperated by suppression. It is only when one stands back, separates oneself from the lower vital, refusing to regard its desires and clamors as one's own, and cultivates an entire equality and equanimity in the consciousness with respect to them, that the lower vital itself becomes gradually purified and itself also calm and equal. Each wave of desire as it comes must be observed as quietly and with as much unmoved detachment as you would observe something going on outside you and allow to pass, rejected from the consciousness and the true movement. The true consciousness steadily put in its place. Fasting comes under the head. It is of no use for this purpose. Abandon that idea altogether. Neither neglect this turn of the nature food desire, nor make too much of it. It has to be dealt with, purified, and mastered, but without giving it too much importance. There are two ways of conquering it: out of detachment, learning to regard food as only a physical necessity and the vital satisfaction of the stomach, and the palate as a thing of no importance. The other is to be able to take without insistence or seeking any food given, and to find in it, whether pronounced good or bad by others, the equal rasa, not of the food for its own sake, but of the universal ananda. As for the method of mastery, it cannot be done by physical abstinence alone. It proceeds by a process of combined detachment and rejection. The consciousness stands back from the sex impulse, feels it as not its own, as something alien thrown on it by nature force, to which it refuses assent or identification. Each time a certain movement of rejection throws it more and more outward, the mind remains unaffected, After a time, the vital being, which is the chief support, withdraws from it in the same way. Finally, the physical consciousness no longer supports it. This process continues until even the subconscious can no longer rouse it up in dream, and no further movement comes from the outer nature force to rekindle this lower fire. This is the course when the sex propensity sticks obstinately. But there are some who can eliminate it decisively by a swift radical dropping away from the nature. That, however, is more rare. The sex pull is that of a general force which uses the individual for its purpose, and it takes advantage of any proximity of the other one. The security lies in oneself, in immediate detachment, standing apart, not accepting as one's own and rejecting it. The self is never affected by any kind of pain. The psychic takes it quietly and offers it to the divine for what is necessary to be done. It is a detachment of even the physical mind from the pain that makes one able to go on as if nothing were there. But this detachment of the physical mind is not so easy to acquire. This established quietude and detachment of the mind marks always a great step forward made in the sadhana. After realization, whatever the higher will demands is the best. But first, detachment is the rule. To reach the freedom without the discipline and development is given to few. Not necessarily suppression, if the refusal of food to a desire is accompanied by detachment in the major part of the being. The difference between suppression, nigraha, and self-control, samyama, is that one says, I cannot help desiring, but I will not satisfy my desire, while the other says, I refuse the desire as well as the satisfaction of the desire. Inner difficulties should also be met with detachment, calm, equality, the unshakable will to conquer. It is this detachment that is the first thing that must be gained by the sadhak. He must cease to live in these outward things and live in his inner being. The more that is done, the more there is a release and peacefulness. Afterwards, when one is secure in this inner being, the right thing to do, the right way to deal with men and things will begin to come.